Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to another great session. On this session, we have the one and only and world famous trainer, headhunter John Bartos. John and I have met on the road, doing lots of different, national sessions and all the associations. And I really enjoy John, A, because he's very, very proactive and very on the cusp of new things, and he's got great content. I make fun of John and that he's kind of like the guy that you wanna not like John. Let me say what I mean by that, because he's like that kind of guy that's almost like too perfect. Like he's a ridiculously handsome man. Take a look at his picture. Right, handsome guy in unbelievable shape, great family. The guy, anytime I'd see him, he's going pole vaulting or he's running an Olympian, triathlon, or he's going elk hunting. I think was the last one. Was it elk?
That was elk the
It
last
was
one.
elk. I'm not making this stuff up. And he just got a new motocross bike that the guy is full of life and action, and you get that through everything that he talks about. John's session now is a really great marketing session, and it applies to the temp and contract people and small folk. This one's really great for everybody. So the title is Working Smarter, Maximizing Your Marketing Performance and Business Development Scripts That Work. So make sure you connect with John, as with everybody on LinkedIn. Go ahead, say hi to him. He'd love to connect with you. John, not only is a trainer, he's also the president of True Staff, and he is the owner of a product that he has called RPM Management, which if you don't get a chance for his other session, you're going to really want to make sure that you check that out, about Matrix and all, and has really got a great tool for it. So I don't know whether he's going to talk about that. I'm sure he will on the other presentation. So without further ado, I turn it over to you, Mr. John Bartos.
Thanks, Neil. Certainly appreciate it. Now, I know you're watching presentations out there from different trainers. This presentation I got for you today is extremely important, and I'll kind of give you an idea why. I just did research on the million-dollar producers, about 50 of them from all over the United States. Matter of fact, at the NAPS conference, I'm actually talking more about that research here this next coming week. But what's so important about that is there's one major component of big billers, people who are successful versus people who are barely squeaking by trying to make it versus people who aren't making it in our marketplace. And that one successful trait that all of them had is they took fantastic search assignments or job orders. Matter of fact, sometimes they were so fantastic that they put money down before they did, which makes that job order very, very, very good to work on. Let me share with you some really unappealing statistics, but it'll make my point come home. Number one, the average contingency search firm fills 18% of the searches that they work on. 18%. The average money down or retained search firm fills 95% of the searches they worked on. Do you guys know what the difference is? If you move from a contingency search to a money down model or a guaranteed model, let's just call it a guaranteed model, that if you work on a search, you're guaranteed to make a placement. Pretty much, 90-some percent. I would say that's pretty close to guarantee. Do you know you will increase your revenue by 77%? Now, that's why we're talking here today.
And
Our
John, I know
industry,
I said I wasn't going to chime in terribly much, but what's great is there's a lot of temp and contract folk out there, and what I stress in all my training, besides how to do all that stuff, is the need for those people that only do that, because we have those people on the call too, to make sure that they are always looking at the job orders that they have, their work orders, their temp recs, whatever they want to call them, to see if there really is a perm element to them and convert that, because it's going to do the same thing. It'll increase their gross margin by 30-40%.
it's just absolutely huge. And I'm not just talking about perm as well. If we can take the work orders that we're getting from all our contract assignments, every day we're looking at contract assignments in the IT segment, in the SAP segment. We're looking at contract assignments within healthcare providers. And the first question my team is programmed to ask is the critical questions to qualify that search, to make sure that it's worth working on. Is this the best use of my time at this specific moment? So either we're doing contract search or we're doing permanent placement search, the better quality search we get will impact our revenue greatly. Those are the reasons for my talk today. How do we maximize this marketing and performance? And what are some scripts I can use, some ways I can go to marketplace to give me more searches? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, we're going to be kind of fast and furious, so buckle your seatbelts. Keep your legs and hands inside the ride at all times because we're going to start moving. And if there's any other questions you have on this, you can always email me, give me a call, and I'd love to walk you through how to potentially change what you're doing today, help you what you're doing today, and I would love to take whatever your percentage is that you're actually filling today of the work you're working on and move that as high as possible because all that's going to do is skyrocket your revenue and make this great industry we're in, the staffing and recruiting industry.
Right, and that's Jay Bartos. That's JBartos, as in Sam, at True Staff, no E, just TRUSTAFF.com, or click on his LinkedIn link.
Perfect. Thanks, Neil. So let's talk about this. What's going on today? You know, the unemployment rate actually just came out today from the government, and it looks like that the unemployment rate is continuing to go down. And what everybody's forecasting for 2013 and 2014 is aggressive growth going on. But what's really happening right there? Okay, what's happening today? Well, you're seeing that clients are having more openings and more openings and more openings everywhere, on the contract side, on the perm side, everywhere. That's what's happening. But we're looking at our clients now are no longer taking 60% fits or 70% fits. Think of the last search that you worked on or that you brought in. Is your client okay interviewing folks who are 50, 60, 70% fits? The answer could be yes, but the real question is, are they hiring them? And the answer is probably not. So what we're seeing today is our clients are becoming very picky about who they're actually bringing on board. Oh, they'll interview your candidates if that's the only candidates you've got out in the marketplace. But they're only hiring candidates who are pretty darn good fits for what they're looking for. So even though the unemployment rate's coming down, we're seeing our clients get pickier and pickier and pickier. So here's the real thing we need to work on. We need to work on a great jobs or search assignments or contract assignments. We can't be taking a look at anything. A client sends us over a contract assignment. They've already got 10 contractors all over this thing, contract agencies on this. They're all throwing resumes against the wall. They haven't found a perfect fit yet. You know why? Because the client's looking for perfect. Now, is that the right use of my time right now is the question you to be asking. Well, there's principles right now of marketing, really, that you need to consider when you're looking at all these dynamics in the marketplace happening. And the number one principle is this. It's about getting a lot of volume of search assignments in. It's about getting a quantity in. All right? And the number one principle, it's all about volume. You want as many search assignments, work orders, job orders that you can possibly get in because you're going to qualify them out and not work on all of them. You're only going to work on the best one. One of the principles in my office that we always say is a starving man will eat a moldy loaf of bread. What does that mean? Well, basically what that means, if you have nothing to eat, you're going to eat about anything. And it's true. Let's say if you have all the food in the world in your cupboards and you can eat anything you want to, think how picky you get when you open up that refrigerator. You open up the refrigerator, you look around, what would I really want to eat? Well, I've got meatloaf over here, I've got bologna, I've got ham, and you're very, very picky of what you're going to choose.
Baloney. I'm sorry.
Well, absolutely. And it's the same principle we have in the recruiting and staffing marketplace. The more volume we can get in, the more picky we can choose to only work on the great ones. So the principle number one of this thing is make sure you get enough volume coming in to have a choice. It's really unfortunate when you talk to recruiters who get one job order in, they think they have to work on it, and they realize that there's 10 other contract agencies, staffing firms working on it, or there's 7 other contingency search firms working on it, and they're a day late and $1 short. So getting the volume in is critical. Now, number 2, marketing principle, it's all about the quality you work on. So you're working on good stuff. So if we can take that as percentage we said originally in the presentation, the average contingency firm fills 18% of their searches. If we can somehow get that to 50, 60, 70, 80%, our revenue goes through the roof. That's all there is to it. But the key is working on that stuff that's viable, the stuff that you can actually get the placements on. So we'll talk more about that as we go on. But it's really about working on quality stuff. So getting a lot of searches in, a lot of work orders in, but then be very picky about what you actually work on. Very, very important. And key 3 for business development is it's all about using insight. And we'll go more into that here in just a second. Now, insight, if you will, is something unique, very unique, that not the ordinary person knows about a person, place, or thing. So when you're doing your marketing presentations, we're going to talk about insight as we go through. And as we role play through these situations, and we'll be role playing through these situations, you really need to think about what kind of insight can I bring to the table that's going to make this very unique, or me unique, or my firm unique, or the reason for us to do business together unique. Will add greatly to helping you get more volume in, which will allow you to be more picky about what search assignments or work orders that you actually work on. So exciting stuff. So those are the 3 principles. And the 4th principle is this. You got to use a measurement tool to determine the quality of your job orders or search assignments or work orders that you have going in. Now, Neil mentioned this at the beginning. About 8 years ago, I developed what we call the RPM dashboard, Revenue Performance Management RPM dashboard. What I did is develop the tool in an Excel spreadsheet that would tell me how good somebody is at what they do. Right? And here's what I mean by that. Obviously, everybody in the recruiting staff at marketplace measures activity, how many calls I make, how many send-outs, how many starts I get. We all measure activity. You know, how many conversations I have, how many work orders I get in. We all measure activity. That's not a problem. We also all measure results. How many interviews I got. How many starts did I get? How much revenue am I bringing? What's my gross margin for the last week? We all measure that as well. But what we don't measure, and the key to the kingdom, is your ratios. Your ratio between your activity and your result is a ratio of how good you are at that specific activity. For instance, let's say for every interview I have, divided by the result, which is placements, is how good my interviews are, which is called your interview to placement or send out to placement ratio. Believe it or not, that's a number 1 ratio that everybody talks about in the industry, in the perm placement world, about how good your firm is. A higher send out to placement ratio, meaning 15 first-time send outs before I make a placement, means that we're not really good at matching skills, understanding our clients, setting expectations, all that kind of stuff. The lower that ratio it means, if it's 3 to 1 or 2 to 1, that means we're cooking with gas, baby. We understand what our client wants. We're hitting the mark on our matching skills, and we're making placements. That's just a simple example of a ratio. In marketing specifically, your key ratio is 2 things, and we'll talk about that more in the presentation. But it's real important to have a tool that tells you what these ratios are to determine how good you are at what you do. And the great news, guys, if you guys go to www.rpm-usa.com, just watch the video about the RPM dashboard. It's a very inexpensive tool that can give every member in the team and the company how good they are at every specific primary activity within the staffing and recruiting marketplace. And by the way, the permanent placement dashboard was developed by John Bartos. The staffing dashboard was developed by Neil Leibovitz. So the good news is you have experts designing these things to help your firm be successful. So the marketing principle number 4, you need a tool that tells you how well you're doing to get you better at this business. Marketing principle number 5. You know what? It's not about how many clients you have. It's really about fewer clients and developing clients. Now, as I told you about my study, I studied the $1 million producers all over the world. I just finished a study a few weeks ago, and it was roughly 57 different $1 million producers who actually produced at the highest level in their industry for multiple years, meaning they weren't a one-hit wonder. They weren't, 1 year they got a big account and bang, they blew it out, and then 2 years later that account went away and they were a pauper again, and they figured out how they had to get rid of their new house and their new BMW and all that stuff. No, it's not those folks. What we're talking about is the folks who are successful, who develop some kind of sustainable competitive advantage in the recruiting and staffing world and did it year after year after year. And one of the principles where it wasn't about getting multiple accounts. It was about developing an account and developing into a major account. $1 million producers in the perm world, multi-million-dollar producers in the staffing marketplace don't have 40 accounts. They have 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 at the very most. So really the principle of marketing and really developing this skill set isn't so much about new accounts and new logos all the time. It's finding the right accounts to work with and building those accounts to really seeing success year after year after year. So it's really about taking existing accounts and blowing them out. Now, let's take a look at what I mean by that. There's about 7 selling situations you run into, from your existing accounts you have in your existing markets to brand spanking new accounts that we go after that we have no idea what the market is. Out of our niche market, we have no clue, but they're a big account, we're going to go knock them down. Well, if you take a look at my little graph here, what it shares with you is how easy and tough. Success rate high, success rate low, if you look at the left and right-hand side of the screen. So what this really connotates to everybody is this. Your existing accounts you have today with existing contacts in existing marketplaces is your easiest way of getting business today. Now, the further you move from that, if you move a new contact or a new marketplace or a new account, it gets much, much more difficult and thus time consuming. So here's the whole point. What we want to do to start with is take our existing accounts and grow them dramatically. As we move out to new accounts, it gets more difficult and more difficult. We need to do that for sure, but probably my first priority when I want to build my business and grow to be a multi-million-dollar practice with a sustainable competitive advantage, I want to start with existing accounts first, then jump on to existing accounts with new contacts, meaning I haven't worked with that contact with new accounts. So, for example, the way I developed one of my biggest clients, Peak Technologies out of Columbia, Maryland, is I started in the sales and marketing area first. Then I went over to engineering. Then I went over to services. Then I went over to the executive staffing level. And I remember one month I placed 2 executive staffs and made $180,000 in fees with 2 placements in this account. And that is certainly possible when you take a major account. Now, the third way is to talk to C-level. And we'll talk how to do that. And then from new accounts to existing contacts to new accounts, new contacts. And then the last thing you want to do is new contacts, new marketplace. But here's the whole idea. Think about what multi-million-dollar producers are. They have 4 to 5 to 10 major accounts, and they grow them and grow them and grow them. And they grow them because they're successful within those accounts, and they get more contacts and go to different divisions in different areas within that account. Keep that in mind when you try to expand your revenue and become a big biller that you want to become in the staffing or the permanent placement world. Now, in marketing, the goals are different. But I always have 4 goals. I wanted to share my 4 goals of marketing when I go to market. The first goal is typically I go to marketplace with some type of player. All right, I do. If I'm going to the perm or contract world, I'm going to have a player I'm going to talk about. So the first goal I have when I do marketing with any kind of marketing technique that I'm going to share with you in just a moment and do role playing is I'm trying to get an interview. I do.
Right, and let me just say this, John, too, because I do a lot of consulting also on the temp and the contract side of the business, and I am shocked at how prevalent skill marketing, which is what you're talking about, pitching, having a candidate ready on the perm side is, yet how non-prevalent it is on the contracting side of the business. And the problem with the contracting side of the business is there's not always a place to put your people, right? And their shelf life is very limited. The good contractors are going to get a job instantly. So when you have a great person that comes off assignment, or you meet a great unemployed person that's willing to contract, do a 2, 3, 6, 1 year or 2 year assignment, whatever the case is, you must find them a home. I'm going to argue not only is it something that the temp or contract people should be doing, right, but it's something that they must be doing. So this is very applicable.
Yeah, and I want to say what we use from a contract perspective, we do a lot in the SAP space. So we know that we have somebody on a 6-month assignment. When month 4 is ending, we get a little note that we've got 60 days to get some work done. And then it becomes a priority for me and my team to make sure that we're making the calls out to get them their other gig that's out there. Now, the funny thing is it's all on Dice, too. So you can go on Dice and on some of the boards that are out there, and you can find when somebody's contract is ending up, make a quick call, and then use that individual, specifically if they're an A player. You know what I mean, the skills and high demand in the marketplace. You can start marketing their skill set out there, and you know what? The worst thing you're going to do is get alternate job orders and work orders from the thing. So I completely agree with you, Neil. We need to really do that a lot more. So the second goal, by the way, of my marketing goals is an alternate job order. So first goal is get an interview from my guy that I'm about skill marketing. Second is alternate job order. Third is building a relationship. We're going to go more into that in just a minute. And the last thing when I market is I'm going to find my client's dream candidate. And this is an important topic. Because if I get nothing from this call besides introducing myself, my organization, I can't get my candidate an opportunity. There's no potential opportunities in that client company. There's no alternate job order. I ask some great questions, and there's a series of questions I ask in a specific order. But the last thing I can do is say this. You know what, Mr. Prospective Client, I'm in the marketplace every single day. I know the folks who are coming out of their contract or in the marketplace. What are you going to be mad at me? That if the right candidate comes to my table, you're going to be mad at me if I don't share with you who they are. In other words, if you had a magic wand, what would be the perfect candidate you wanted to see from one of your competitors? What do you want to see when they come to the marketplace when I see them? And if you can do that, that's your value and reason to call back. And you can always call them back and say, you know what, Mr. Client, we talked about 4 months ago, you wanted an SAP, Extended Warehouse Management, functional consultant who had 3 to 4 life cycles with the SAP EWM product. You know what, I didn't think I'd find a needle in a haystack, but guess what, this is your lucky day. I have an individual with 7 life cycles, implementations, blah, blah, blah. So the whole idea by doing that, you become a marketplace expert. You add value immediately. You have a reason to call them back. And you know what? This is how you develop your circle of influence.
Right. And John, I just want to add, people that are listening that said, okay, well, yeah, I know that, or I've heard of that before. I mean, I'm sure you've all maybe heard that idea, but so many people don't database it. You can't just ask it and not put it somewhere. And it's not like it was 10, 15 years ago. Everyone has an ATS. All you need, I don't care what system you have, all you need is a field that you're always going to use to put that in that you could search under. And you instantly have a place. If you ask it every day, every call, you instantly have a place to bring your candidates to market. If you don't, which is what 90% of you don't do, then it's not going to help you. So just take that from the call and start making that happen.
Yeah, and here's what I do. We take that information, put it in a field in a roll-up list that's searchable. So, for instance, when we find out what their dream candidate is, we put that in a very specific list, and then we use keyword search. So, candidate comes to the marketplace. We know he's an SAP EWM consultant, and that's what somebody's looking for. I type in SAP EWM or SAP ABOP, or whatever the specific term is. It automatically comes up. A call is generated. And it comes right up. And that, by the way, that's PCR software that does that for me. Not selling PCR software, but I'm telling you, it's been a great tool in order to allow us to do that specific activity, which is great. Now, Neil, we're going to get into 10 business development approaches that are out there. And I just want to let everybody know before I start this, to give them an idea, that it's important that these 10 business development approaches, it's not so important that you learn every single one of them. It's important that you do business development. And an interesting topic, again, in my study of $1 million producers, year after year after year, I ask them how often you do business development. And the answer was very seldom. You know why it was very seldom? Because they have so much business coming from existing accounts that they spend maybe 3-4 hours a week doing business development. Now, many of us who aren't in the multi-million-dollar billing a year area, we've got to do much more because we develop those major accounts that are out there. These different approaches are ideas for you to use and use as effectively. Pick and choose what you want to do. But the key to the whole thing is making the marketing calls and getting a volume of job orders or work orders in so you can be very choosy about what you actually work on. Okay, let's take a look at these for a second. And the A-player approach is skill marketing. And it's a very simple approach, and it sounds something like this. Hey, Mr. Prospective Client, this is John Bartos with TrueStaff. How are you doing today? Great. Well, have you heard of us before? Well, we do executive search specifically in the SAP marketplace. What I do is work with SAP companies all over the United States and help them find the best SAP talent known to man, the A players, the ones who are hidden by job orders, who are kicking butt, taking names by their employers. The reason for the call, though, today was I came across an SAP EWM functional consultant that I think is the best consultant in the marketplace. Let me share you a few bullet points about him. This individual has went through 5 different go-live opportunities in the EWM marketplace where he implemented EWM for companies such as Caterpillar, Ford Motor Company, as well as Luxottica. This individual has, and that's basically an A-player approach. So what you're doing is sharing your A-player feature benefit. Now this approach works. The one thing I do with this approach that's different is at the end, I say this. Does it make sense for you to get together next Tuesday or Wednesday? Or am I on target? Is this something you could potentially see yourself needing in the next 3 to 6 months? So any close will do. But here's the deal with this business development approaches. You just need to do them and feel comfortable about them, for sure. Now, there's a white paper I wrote, and anybody can access the white paper by sending me an email. This 10 business development approaches and the 5 principles of marketing has specific verbiage for every single one of these that you can role play yourself. I will send you that white paper. If you want to send me an email, again, the email is jbartos, Jbartos, at truestaff, trustaff.com, and I'll get you that white paper so you can kind of look at it all over these things. Now, the second approach is called the vertical market approach, and it shows insight, heavy insight. Remember I told you insight was something that is very unique about a person, place, or thing, or marketplace. And a vertical market approach sounds something like this. Hey, Mr. Potential Prospective Client, this is John Bartos with TrueStaff. How are you doing today? Fantastic. Hey, have you heard of us before? No. Okay. Well, TrueStaff is an organization that focuses on working with SAP organizations, and we help them bring the best SAP talent to the marketplace. Those A players that are out there, the top 10% that make the major difference in an organization. But the reason for the call today is I understand you're an SAP house, and I understand you're going to implement the EWM module within the SAP market space. We found out that working with other companies out there that are implementing the SAP module of EWM, they're running to a very specific problem, one going from WM to EWM, that most companies don't realize. What we found out the solution to that problem is by using somebody who understands the difference between WM and EWM, you can make a big difference into the implementation, potentially cut your time in implementation down by half. Okay, let's talk about that approach real quick. The vertical market approach is an approach where you share you're expert in a specific industry, and you come off as more of a consultant than you do anything else. Obviously, I identified a problem, didn't I? The problem identified was, and when somebody is going into the SAP EWM implementation, they have a major problem when going from WM, by the way, which is a warehouse management module, which everybody has, going to the extended warehouse management module. And there's only one way to come across that problem to reduce your time. It's finding somebody who's done it before. So that's the vertical market approach. I'm an expert in that marketplace. I found a problem. I resolved the problem. And that's the insight. That's something unique that not everybody knows. So what you come across with is you're no longer a recruiter or a staffing agent. What you are is you're a consultant trying to solve a problem. So the vertical market approach, very, very strong. Now, if you put those two together, look out, and you got the strongest approach known to man between you and me. You could do skill set market and vertical market approach. But here's how I do that approach. I would do the same approach, exact same approach I did in vertical market approach, but I'd add the A-player approach in the end. All right, so here's how that sounds like. Hey, Mr. Prospective Client, this is John Bartos with TrueStaff. How are you doing today? Great. Have you heard us before? Oh, I'm shocked. We at TrueStaff focus on helping SAP organizations put the SAP people on board as well as implement SAP in the best way possible. We work with the top 10% players in the marketplace, and we do whatever we need to do to help them be successful in their SAP implementations. We've realized, the reason for the call today, we realized a problem when companies go from the WM module to the EWM module in the marketplace. We're realizing that there's a certain problem in making that transition. And in order to spend half the time on the implementation and also half the consulting cost, you need somebody on board who's actually done that before. So the real reason for the call, Mr. Prospective Client, is I have an individual, an SAP EWM functional consultant, who's already went through the WM to EWM implementation and solved those problems. Let me share a few bullet points about this candidate with you. So that approach, when I'm combining the vertical market approach to the A-player approach, and obviously it could be in any industry you want to, being a knowledge of that marketplace, but that approach alone is gold. It brings stuff in. But let's talk about what are some other ways to bring job orders in. Flipping reference checks is a huge one. We all have to do references on the contract side as well as on the perm side. Flipping a reference check is easy. At the end of a reference check, as long as you do a professional reference check, and don't forget, who do you talk to on a reference check? You typically talk to their managers, don't you? Your candidate's managers. So you're talking to hiring managers. So all we need to do at the end of the reference check is something like this. You know what, Mr. Prospective Client, could you guys use talent? Something like Tim that we just checked the reference on. Who would I work with in your organization to help you guys find quality talent like Tim that we found for one of your competitors? And that's all you have to do. Flipping a reference check is the easiest way to get more business. And since we're doing reference checks every day, every time you do a reference check, make a point to flip the reference check to get additional business. Now, a simpler way is a recruiting call. Now, we all have to recruit, right? We do business development out there. We bring the business, and somebody's got to do recruiting. All you have to have your recruiters ask is this question at the end. You know what, Mr. Candidate, I'm looking forward to working with you, and you know what, I'm excited about potentially helping you find you working with this opportunity I have or potentially one in the future. Can I ask you a small favor? I've always wanted to work with your organization. Now, who would I talk to in your organization to start working with you in your organization? Now, also remind the candidate that it's not going to be a conflict of interest if he helps you work with the company he's with, as well as you try to take him out. You've already started working the relationship, taking him out first, so that takes priority. Obviously, if he can help you get some traction into his specific company, the better you're going to do. The least you're going to get from flipping a recruiting call is you'll find out names who the hiring managers are, so you can make those phone calls. And you can potentially use the candidate you just talked to as a potential internal reference if they allow you to do that. So all of these approaches, again, let me remind you, it's not about the approaches. It's trying to get as multiple lines in the water if you can, because you want lots of job orders to only work on the best ones. And then you work on the best ones to increase your chances of filling these. Again, if we can get you to 90, 95%, you're going to be doing extremely well, and your revenue will go through the roof. And I'll tell you some facts here in just a minute. Now, striking a deal simply means striking a deal, certainly with the candidate, that you'll help him get out and find his job of his career, dream job, and he's going to help you get into your organization. Now, let's go down to some of these approaches that are real important. Let's talk about calling about a posting. All right. I know we go on Indeed.com or Jobster.com, Dice, wherever job board that you actually post to, get on there as well and take a look. So when you have a candidate come to you, hey, I'm an SAP, materials management module functional consultant, help me find an opportunity. An easy way to do it is go on one of the job boards or job aggregators and find out who's got openings, right? But what do you do about a posting? Isn't that almost like an attorney chasing an ambulance when we see recruiters calling about a posting? Well, it kind of is if you handle it wrong. If you handle it right, not an issue at all. So here's how we do that. By the way, this is one of the things that my recruiters do every single day. All right, so when you call about a posting, you have a candidate ready to go. Right, and then you find that posting. And here's what that phone call is. Get on LinkedIn, find out who actually owns the posting. Not HR, obviously, but who the hiring manager who owns that posting. Doesn't have to be exact. You can guess. If you know it's a posting in logistics, it's probably a logistics manager, or just VP or supply chain manager. So figure out who it is. But here's what that call is going to sound like. And let's say the individual's name is Tom. Hey, Tom, it's John Bartos from TrueStaff. How you doing? Have you heard of us? Well, we do executive search specifically in the logistics marketplace. Hey, the reason for the call, Tom, and I don't want to take a lot of your time because we haven't talked before. I had a call from one of my top candidates that I'm working with that you potentially have an opening for a senior director of logistics. I don't know if you do or not, but I just want to make a call. My organization focuses very specifically on working with the top organizations to find their logistics professional. And I have a candidate I wanted to share some information about that if you did have an opening for there, that would probably be one of the A players in the marketplace that we can talk about. Let's share a few bullet points. So here's what I did with that posting. I didn't let them know that I found it on Dice.com or Monster.com or Ladders or any of those sites that are out there. I let them know that I had a candidate call me, found out you had an opening, and I wanted to share with them not only what I did from a value proposition perspective, but then I went to the market with an A player. So not only do I look, very good because I am exactly who they're looking for to work with in that specific space, but I also have an A player that I'm bringing to the marketplace. Don't forget, when they post a job, there's a lot of things that happen. A lot of things that happen are bad. The people who are responding to postings are typically the A players kicking butt and taking names for the competitors out there. The folks typically are unemployed. So by using that approach, calling about a posting and let them know you heard about it from a candidate, bring an A player to the table, you can be very successful in not only developing relationships, but getting additional job orders in. Now let's talk about exclusivity approach. I'm going to talk about a couple more approaches here, then we're going to keep going on. Please send me an email, and I'll give you the white paper on all these, and I'll give you the scripts for all of them that are written down. You can just make some changes and make them your own if you'd like to do that. But the exclusivity approach is important, specifically you're in perm placement, or if it's contract placement. I know contract, we're all after a race. They send it out to many people. Who do you have? And we're racing as fast as we can because we've got 2 hours to make that happen. Play the game every day, understand it, feel your pain, live your pain, trust me. But how about that exclusivity approach? How do we do that? Well, let's say you're calling a hiring manager, and you ask the question, how many agencies do you have working on this right now? And they say, well, I've got 4 right now working on it. You're going to be the 5th one. Let's talk about what your response is going to be to that. Because the idea is you need to have time to find the right person, and you want to find out how much time you actually have. This works better in the perm world than it does contract work, but it does work in the contract world. And you want exclusivity, because if you get exclusivity, that takes you from 18% to 70% right away, all right, in terms of your percentage chance of filling that role. Matter of fact, that takes the opportunity, that takes your ability to earn revenue, and it takes it by doubling your revenue, just by asking, getting exclusivity. So real important here, real important here. You know, basically what you need to do is explain to your hiring manager what if you're not exclusivity happens. And here's how I'd explain that. You know, Mr. Prospective Client, when you have 3 firms or 4 firms working on this, what happens? This search becomes a complete race. So what happens in the race is everybody tries the low-hanging fruit, which is job board candidates and internal database candidates, and they take everything they got, even though it's a 70, 60, 50% fit, and they throw it against the wall to see if it's going to stick. Now, what happens when a search like that, when a race happens like that, is you, Mr. Hiring Manager, become the quality control for the whole process. They're going to send you everything that's out there. Some are going to fit, some are going to not. And the candidates out there are thinking, what the heck's going on? So what you're going to do is once you get all these candidates in, you're going to get a lot of candidates initially, and after about a week you're going to get none. But what's going to happen is you're going to make your best decision you possibly can from the least quality candidates in the marketplace. That's what your decision is going to be based on. Here's my suggestion, Mr. Hiring Manager. Give me 2 weeks exclusive, 1 week exclusive on this. Call the dogs off. Let them know you hold off on anything they bring in, and let us do the real search. Let us go in and find the true A players. Now, the true A players are kicking butt, taking names for your competitors. They're the top 10% in the marketplace. They're not on job boards. They're not on Dice.com. They're not looking for opportunities. They're knocking the cover off the ball for your competitor, kicking butt, taking names every single day. And the only way to get for them is for somebody to do the hard work, meaning not looking through a job board, not looking through a database, and finding database candidates. What it is somebody making those calls deep within an organization, finding who that position is, and prying them out of there like a molar impacted in a jaw. Very difficult. That takes more time than searching a job board. But what that allows you to do in 1 week, I'll find 3 to 5 players for you in 1 week. So you have the opportunity to choose the best players in the market, the best decision from the best players in the marketplace versus the best decision from some of the worst players in the marketplace. Now, Mr. Hiring Manager, which would you rather do? Simply by getting exclusivity, by using the exclusivity approach, you'll get a chance to increase your revenue overnight by practicing this approach. Now, let's go to one more. Let's talk about the C-level approach. What do you do? All right. We're working currently with HR. We're currently working with the hiring managers. But, we haven't called on the CEO, the CIO, the CFO yet. I'm not sure I feel comfortable doing that, John. Well, let me tell you, first of all, they would love to hear from you if you currently do that. If you don't hear from them, they would certainly welcome a call. By the way, it's just as easy to get hold of a CEO today than it is, or CIO, than it is anybody else in the marketplace. But here's a C-level approach I do. Based on Anthony Peranella's book, and if you don't have this book, by the way, it's phenomenal. It's called Selling to Vito, V-I-T-O, very important top officer. And Anthony Peranello came out with a concept that blew my mind. He said, John, here's the deal. And he wrote this book, buy the book. It's cheap. You can get it on Amazon.com used for like $3, okay? So even those folks who are budget-minded, don't even worry about it. Get on there and you put something on their credit card. But basically what it said is the C-level has different language they talk about. If you think about a CEO, CIO, CFO, their whole idea of living is to increase shareholder value. A CEO's boss is the chairman of the board and the board of directors, right? So he's got to make them happy. What's going to make the board of directors happy? By increasing shareholder value. Well, what increases shareholder value? Well, increased profit, decreased cost, a sustainable competitive advantage in a marketplace does, increase revenue. So all of those things increase shareholder value. So basically in Anthony Pernell's book, he talks about using different language. So here's what I did that blew my mind, the results I had. I put on board a director of supply chain for Standard Register in Dayton, Ohio. And I'm comfortable sharing names with everybody, guys. Don't worry about it. Call them if you want to. It's not a big deal. But I put on a director of supply chain named Rick Ball. I called him back in 1 year, and Rick called. His secretary answered. He didn't have a secretary a year ago, but his secretary answered. She screened my call and let me know that I could talk to the VP of supply chain, Rick Ball. So he got promoted. So I get Rick on the phone. I say, Rick, congratulations, first of all, on the vice presidential title. I hope they increased your compensation too. He said, absolutely, they did. I said, so Rick, in 1 year, you went from a director to a VP. What did you do? And Rick said, John, first of all, thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. But I saved this company $300 million in 1 year. I said, what? Rick, wait a minute. You mean $30 million? By the way, Standard Register was $1 billion company, so $300 million is 30% of $1 billion. That's a heck of a lot of money. He said, no, you heard me right. It's $300 million. I saved it to him in 1 year. I said, well, unbelievable. I said, how in the world did you do that? And he went through his myriad of things that he did to save the company $300 million. First of all, one thing he did, which was smart. First of all, I got Rick. I found out that I got the search from the CEO, and the CEO knew he had a supply chain problem. So what Rick did is the same thing he did at General Motors. He got rid of he got vendor managed inventory in. So he got rid of all the inventory, which was millions worth of dollars in. So he no longer owned the inventory until it went to press. And Standard Register does business forms, labels, and all sorts of different things. But he changed the whole concept of business. He had everybody carry credit cards to buy things where Visa was giving them back 5% or 3% on all the purchases. But he put together all these things and just knocked the cover off the ball. So I put that together and I started calling every competitor to Standard Register, any remotely competitor in the industry. And here's what that approach sounded like. Hey Phil, it's John Bartos with TrueStaff. We haven't got a chance to talk before, but I currently work with Standard Register now. I'm the firm that helped them save over $300 million last year and make them the most profitable company in your industry. Now, Phil, I don't know if I can help you or not, but I thought maybe worth a conversation. That's all I had to say. That's it. Guys, I called 15 executives in the business forms label marketplace. Out of 15 executives, I left that message for email because I have a technology strategy when I go. If I can't get a hold of them, I use voicemail and email and all sorts of stuff. I got a call back from 12 of them. I had conversations, great conversations with 12. I had contracts with 8 of them at the end of the day. Now, when they called back, what did I say? Did you tell me you're a recruiter, John? I said, exactly. What happened? I said, I was called in by the CEO of Standard Register, and what he shared with me was they have a major supply chain problem. We put our heads together and found out that the way to solve that business problem was find somebody who solved that business problem before. And what we did is we found somebody from General Motors who had that problem but solved the General Motors problem. If you could do it for GM, he could do it for Standard Register. If he could do it for a multi-billion-dollar multinational company, he could do it for a little billion-dollar company in Dayton, Ohio. So he did exactly that. Then my question to the CEO was this. What problems in business would you like to have solved in your organization that we can work on, Mr. CEO? So just by simply doing that. So if I'm you today, here's one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to send an email to all of your candidates that you've placed over the last 5 years. And just say this. I want to brag about you. I miss you, number one. I want to brag about you. What are some of the successes you had at your organization that I can brag about? And by sending that email out to all of your candidates you've placed, you wouldn't believe the stuff you're going to get back. I have one candidate that I did this with that increased revenue by his company by 40%. He brought in a $10 million deal, and the company was a small company, and now they're a big company, and it's growing in revenue because he brought the deal in. I mean, the things you're going to learn is going to be unbelievable. So the whole idea behind these approaches, they're all great approaches. You need to do them all. Find one that works for you and make the business development calls. Just make the marketing calls. Write to me and get that certainly get that white paper. Go to johnbartos.com, JONBARTOS.com. Ask for it. Find the free stuff on there. Use it. Now, you also got to be ready for objections because when you do any of these marketing approach, they're going to have objections. We don't have any openings. I don't pay a recruiter's fee. Go talk to somebody else beside me. Send me a resume. Get good at these objections. Role play, role play, role play every single day. And you know what? If you don't know how to role play through these, get some coaching. You can give me a shot. Give Neil a shout. Let us know. We can role play some of the stuff with you. You pay for some executive coaching to help you get better at what you do or get your team better. Now, let's talk about the metrics that are important in this game, all right? And I want to share these with you. In the marketing, the metrics to pay attention to, by the way, the RPM dashboard measures all these things. But the new market presentation, the job order ratio, is critical because it tells you how good you are at your marketing. So every time I do a presentation, one of my 10 different ways of going to market, whatever way I go, every time I do it, you want to count it, and you want to figure out how many job orders you get. Or search assignments, which means a qualified job order. Probably the most important ratio, though, is your job order to placement ratio. Is how many jobs you work on and how many placements you make. It tells you if am I working on quality searches or not. Guys, this is going to be the number one thing. If you want to move your business and double your revenue tomorrow, this ratio is what I would change, your job order to placement ratio. I'd move it to more of exclusivity or a retain model. And I've worked with firms all over the world in helping them move to a retain model or money down model. If you need help there, give me a call, give Neil a call. Let's help you get that down. I would love to double your revenue next year or next month, and we could show you how to do that. Another ratio is a QC to send out ratio. What that ratio means is how many submittals I have to how many send outs. That means your matching skills. How good can I match? Your QC to placement ratio is important. And again, a secondary metric to look at is that send out to placement. Your first time send SO1 to placement ratio is a good ratio to tell, just a good quality look at how well I'm doing. So, okay, so what would I do to double my revenue right now? Well, I'm telling you what I'm doing right now in my contract world. We do a lot of clinical placements in the hospital world. We're going to higher level positions. So instead of $10 an hour profit, I'm going for $50 an hour profit. I'm going for higher level positions, and I'm going for more percentage fees. If you got a strong value proposition, you can move from 25% to 27%. Ladies and gentlemen, the industry now of retained search is at 33% to 40% plus expenses. So Spencer Stewart, Heidrick and Struggles, Egon Zehner can get those fees. You can too. So number one, get your percentage up, ask for it, don't just do it. Number two, get a higher level position. Now the other thing to do is get your job order placement ratio down to where it needs to be, meaning you're only working on higher level searches that are higher quality searches. And if you need some coaching on how to do that for your company, please give us a shout. Next thing is your new market presentation to job order ratio. Every time you do a presentation, every 3 of those, you want 1 job order or search assignment coming in. Not necessarily you're going to work on it, but you need to be good at marketing and get these searches in. And you want to shoot for a 1-to-1 ratio on your matching skills. When you submit somebody, you want them interviewed, obviously. Now, last resort, to double your revenue, get more send-outs going on, more submittals going on. So in conclusion, right now is the time to make recruiting in the staffing marketplace anything you want it to be. I mean, if you want your lifestyle to change as an individual recruiter, or if you want your firm to double in revenue, triple in revenue, some of the things we talked about today can quickly get you there, but doing them right is important. The marketplace is ready for it. Pay attention to the marketing principles that are out there. You've got to have a volume of job orders or work orders to only work on the right ones. Pay attention to what your people are working on. One of the articles I wrote was Parachute Time in the Fordyce Letter. It's all about the manager paying attention to what his people are working on so they're not working on bad stuff, which are wasting all their time and wasting all his money and your money. So we got to make sure we don't do that. So you need volume. Only work on quality. Make sure you have insight in your presentations. Use the marketing principles. It's about getting volume to get the quality of work to work on and pay attention to your ratios. Make sure you're using a measurement tool, rpm-usa.com. By the way, I don't know why it's rpm-usa. It's rpm-usa on the website for sure. And to double your revenue, obviously do those things. Guys, you can be as successful in this marketplace today as you ever wanted to be. It's the best marketplace we've seen in the last 6 years. We need to be rejoicing, having fun, but chasing the brass ring right now because the marketplace is poised. I wish you all the success in the world, not only in your business, but in life. You know what? And by chasing what you need to do and doing the right things, this could be the best, not only career and best industry you've ever been in, but it certainly can change your life and the life of others around you. Neil.
Thank you, sir. Listen, I think always great stuff. on the on the John's front. Really super good marketing stuff. This applies to absolutely everybody. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure you check out John's other session. Yeah, that really gets into the behind the scenes on the stats. It's really wonderful. John, thank you so much for your time. Really great presentation.
Thanks, Neil.